going, people? Gonna do knock out a couple videos here. A little chilly. I'm in the garage, so I'm out of the cold. It's getting down to the 40s tonight here, Texas. Let's see, which one we're gonna do first? Let's do martial law. Got a couple questions on martial law. So, my water. So martial law is basically another term for military law. It's been enacted in the U.S. and in other countries, Canada, Pakistan, Israel. I mean, there's all kind of countries that enforce. China, Tiananmen Square, that was a martial law incident. When they were protesting the Vietnam War, we sent the National Guard. That was somewhat of a martial law to the campuses to quell the uprising or the protest. So martial law kind of has a history in the U.S. More of history than it probably should have. So when people are scared of martial law and they'll never do it. Well, if you look at history, they've done it several times since we were a country. So it's not like some odd conspiracy theory that people want you to make you think it is. Martial law is real, and normally what happens, martial law is, Congress passed a thing called posse comitatus a long time ago. And posse comitatus says the military will not be used to enforce civil law. You can't do it. Except in martial law. So in martial law, the governor of a state or the president can declare martial law for reasons of a state of emergency, natural disaster, looting, riots, protest, or invasion of another country, I think is the reason why they can install martial law. So they also did a little bit of martial law after World War II when they started gathering up Japanese citizens who they thought might be helping out the Japanese bombers, so they were locked up. That was a martial law kind of thing. So what happens in martial law is basically the government, the executive branch, the one with the guns, says, you know what, locals, we don't think you can handle it anymore, or we think we need to come in. Now sometimes the locals can request the feds to come in for the martial law, but the government can declare martial law, and then whether it uses the National Guard or they bring in, depending on how big it is and how many people they need. But traditionally martial law is used to stop looting, stop out of control masses that the local police can't handle. The problem with martial law is it tends to, one of the points in martial laws is it normally, not always, but normally if they do it, they suspend what's called habeas corpus. And habeas corpus is your right to challenge a court for unlawful detention or unlawful acts of the government against you. You have a right to go in front of a judge and be heard. Which is why when you're arrested as a civilian, you have a preliminary hearing, you have a bail hearing, you have a right to be heard. So the government has to justify why they're doing something to you in order to fulfill the habeas corpus requirement. Well, in martial law, habeas corpus is suspended. So guess what? The military can hold you, they can arrest you, they can question you, and they can move you where they want, and they can take your guns, and they can do whatever they want without explaining anything and without you having a hearing. So for those who think martial law is a good thing and government just wants to help, and anybody that believes that government is just here to help, well, you've already lost the battle anyway. But martial law is rarely a good thing. When a tornado hits and you've got these assholes that come in from out of town because a bunch of homes are destroyed, so a lot of people will come in and go, hey man, if we go rummaging through the aftermath, we're going to find guns, money, jewelry. We'll take advantage of these people's disaster, find what we can find, and leave. Well, they used to, when I was younger, I remember hearing when there was looting, it was like carte blanche, looters will be shot. You can shoot a looter. They just basically give everybody permission. If you see somebody looting, shoot them. So I think that's a great law. I think we ought to have that all the time. But if they don't want to do that, they'd rather keep control of it, they'll enact martial law, they'll send in military troops, they suspend habeas corpus, they don't have to take you to trial, they don't have to explain anything, they don't have to adhere to your rights to search and seizure, warrantless searches. Pretty much the courts and civilian law enforcement and government is out of it when martial law happens. Now, if the governor requests martial law, he can normally stop it. I say normally because I think once you get the government involved, it's always a lot harder to get them uninvolved. So a governor may request help, thinks it's under control, says, I think my guys can take over now and say leave, and then somebody from the feds can go, you know what? We don't think you can handle it, we're not leaving yet. Remember, anytime you get the government involved, it's not a good thing, and it's really, really hard to get them uninvolved. So, you know, I got a couple of questions on martial law, kind of to go over it a little bit. I mean, anybody can look it up. I mean, if you Google and research it and read, and I'm sure there's some case law on it. The Supreme Court's ruled on it several times. Matter of fact, the Supreme Court ruled this is dangerous to me. I don't like this. There is no definition of martial law. So it's undefined. Man, when you give government undefined authority, that's a huge mistake. So that's not a good thing. So the Supreme Court, one of their rulings on martial law was, and I can't remember the name of the case, I want to say it starts with a D, Duncan or Duhart or something, but it basically said there's no definition of martial law. You can't really challenge what martial law is because there's no definition. Because it varies depending on whether it's for national disaster, whether it's to protect. Oh yeah, I forgot the other reason for martial law. Public safety. Now, if people aren't suspicious of that term by now, they ought to figure out the Patriot Act, Homeland Security, searching grandmas at the airport. Everything that happens that's bad and the government gets power always comes back to public safety. So whenever I hear that term, I'm always like, the government's up to something. Because they love throwing that term out to scare people. And people, the dumb sheeple out there, will be like, oh, it's for our safety. So they'll keep us safe, so it must be okay. Because they're idiots. So, martial law, suspending habeas corpus, depending on why they enact it, they can unenact it. It can be temporary, it can be long-term. There's only been one time that martial law was across the whole country, and that was during the Civil War. And Lincoln did that, and Lincoln was if you research, everybody's like, Lincoln's such a great guy. Now, Lincoln stomped all over the Constitution. But that's a different story. But anyway, he went national. He's the only guy that ever went national martial law. And he did some other things in his presidency that pretty much really just spit in the face of the Constitution. But, you know, and the Constitution is kind of a living, breathing document. It kind of moves with the tides. It's kind of like the flag. As the wind comes, it blows and it moves. You know, you can't really say what the flag looks like all the time, depending on how long. The Constitution's in a little, kind of the same way. It's always kind of being adjusted, either through amendments, through Supreme Court cases, through changing of definitions. You know, a marriage was this and now it's not that. And, you know, people are like, oh, it's a constitutional right to be married, and it's not, marriage ain't in the Constitution, but whatever. I'm sure if you want to change the word of everything. So that's my spiel on martial law. You know, is there a big conspiracy for the government to do it? I was in the government a long time. I never heard of a big martial law kind of thing. However, I do know when I was in the military, if there was martial law, I would have followed orders. People need to, you know, we keep thinking, man, we sure hope our military won't turn on the people. The military is not going to see it as turn on the people. They're going to be following orders and giving information that they're protecting the public, that the locals can't have it, and that you're under orders of the President of the United States to do the following. And the military is going to say, you know what, I'm a good soldier, I'm going to go out there and do my job. So you're not going to have a whole bunch of people going, oh, that damn president's full of shit. I don't believe that. General, you can't tell me that. I'm not going to do that against the country. That just ain't going to happen. And I hear people talk about that all the time like they think it's going to happen. Now, if it got really bad to where there was a flat-out civil war and the citizens were really fighting the government, maybe you would have some who would leave the military or leave on the government side to go protect their families, and when they protect their families, they would realize that it's in their best interest not to support the government, and then they may come and help. But martial law, if it happens, it's going to happen. You know, I may be doing another one on how to defeat it, or how to hide from it, or how to mess up their efforts. All right, so we'll end that there on martial law.